My name is Ryan Carter, and I'm telling this story because I still don't understand what happened in that building. I moved out almost immediately after everything ended. I changed my number. I stopped answering unknown calls. I avoided elevators, quiet hallways, and empty rooms for months afterward. But some nights, when the world gets quiet enough, I swear I can still hear it. A phone ringing in an empty apartment. This happened in late October, during my first year living alone. I had just turned 31 and moved into a small 4-story apartment building on the edge of downtown. It wasn't anything special. 12 units, thin walls, old wiring, and a landlord who showed up only when rent was due. Apartment 4B was at the end of the top hallway. I had one neighbor across from me and another directly below. The rest of the floor had been empty for a long time. I worked night shifts from home doing remote tech support, so my schedule was reversed. I slept during the day and worked through the night, usually finishing around 4 in the morning. The quiet suited me. The first call came at 2:17 a.m. My desk phone lit up with a 4-digit extension number. No caller ID, no location, just the numbers. I assumed it was a misdial from another tenant. I answered. Hello? There was only static, then faint clicking sounds like someone pressing buttons on a keypad. After 10 seconds, the line went dead. I went back to work and forgot about it. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same extension, same silence. That's when I remembered something important. Our building didn't have an internal phone system. Each apartment had its own landline, but there was no way for residents to call one another using extensions. I tried calling the number back. An automated message told me the number didn't exist. I convinced myself it was a phone company glitch. That explanation lasted one night. The calls started coming every evening after midnight, always from the same non-existent extension. Sometimes there was breathing, sometimes soft tapping. Once I heard what sounded like distant crying. I stopped answering. The phone would ring until voicemail picked up, then stop. But there were never any messages, no missed call notifications. It was as if the calls erased themselves. On the 7th night, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, dragging. I muted my headset and listened. The building had old hardwood floors and sound carried easily. I heard someone moving past the empty apartments toward my door. Then it stopped, right outside 4B. No knock, no handle turning, just someone standing there. After several minutes, the footsteps moved away. I didn't sleep that morning. Later that day, I asked my landlord if anyone had moved into the vacant apartments. He shook his head. Not since last winter. I asked about apartment 4A across from me. He hesitated. Still empty. I told him I'd heard movement upstairs. He avoided eye contact. Probably pipes, he said. This building makes noise. That afternoon, I found a yellow sticky note pressed flat against my door. No writing, just paper. I threw it away. That night, the phone rang again. I answered. I know you're there, I said. Breathing filled the line, closer than before. Then a whisper. You hear it too? My stomach tightened. Hear what? A pause, then, the other phone. I pulled the receiver away from my ear. Behind me, inside my apartment, my bedroom phone started ringing. The sound of the bedroom phone ringing cut straight through me. I stood frozen in the middle of my living room, desk phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the same dead line breathe softly on the other end. The ringing behind me was real, sharp, insistent. I slowly lowered the desk phone back onto its cradle. The bedroom phone kept ringing. I didn't move for several seconds. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Finally, I forced myself to walk toward the bedroom. Each step felt heavier than the last. The hallway light flickered as I passed beneath it. I stopped just outside the bedroom door. The ringing came from inside. I reached for the handle. My hand was shaking. I opened the door. The room was empty. The bed was made. The curtains hung still. The phone on the nightstand vibrated lightly as it rang. I picked it up. Hello? Static. Then the same clicking sound I'd heard before. My voice came through the receiver. Not delayed. Not distorted. Perfect. Hello? I dropped the phone. It hit the carpet and continued playing my own voice on repeat. I backed out of the room and slammed the door. My phone rang immediately. Not the landline. My cell. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It went to voicemail. Then rang again. And again. Each time from a different number. I unplugged both landlines and shut my phone off. The apartment fell into silence. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3:40 a.m., I heard movement in the hallway again. This time the footsteps didn't stop outside my door. They continued past it, toward apartment 4A. I crept toward the peephole. The hallway was dimly lit, but I could see the door to 4A standing open. I had been told it was vacant. Cold air poured out of the dark interior. Then something stepped into view. It was tall. Too tall. Its limbs bent wrong, joints shifting as it moved. Its head hung low, neck stretched unnaturally long. It didn't walk. It slid, dragging itself across the floor toward my door. I stumbled backward and locked myself in the bathroom. I sat on the floor with my back against the tub, holding my knees to my chest, trying not to breathe. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It had turned itself back on. A notification appeared. Missed call. Apartment 4B. There was a soft knock on the bathroom door. Once. Twice. Then my voice spoke from the other side. "Ryan, it's okay. You just forgot." I covered my mouth. The handle turned. The door began to open. Something cold touched my ankle. I kicked blindly and screamed. The lights went out. Then everything stopped. I don't know how long I stayed there. I woke up to sunlight coming through the bathroom window. The apartment was quiet. No calls. No footsteps. No open doors. Apartment 4A was locked again. The sticky note was back on my door. This time it had writing. 4 digits. The same extension that had been calling me. I moved out that afternoon. The landlord claimed no record of any calls. The phone company showed no incoming traffic. Apartment 4A had been officially vacant for over a year. 3 months later, I looked up the building online. A tenant had died in apartment 4B the previous winter. Heart attack. Alone. His phone records showed hundreds of outgoing calls, all to non-existent extension numbers. I don't answer unknown calls anymore, and if a phone rings in an empty room, I leave.
Story 2.
My name is Daniel Reyes, and I worked as a night dispatcher for emergency roadside assistance for almost 6 years. Most people think dispatch is boring. It isn't. You spend your nights listening to people cry, panic, lie, and sometimes beg. You learn to recognize fake emergencies from real ones. You learn which callers exaggerate and which ones are too calm to trust. You also learn that phones carry more than voices. They carry panic. I quit that job 2 years ago, not because of stress, because of one call I can't explain. It happened on a Tuesday night in early February. I was working the overnight shift alone. My office was a small rented space inside a business park. Fluorescent lights, vending machine in the hallway, one window that looked out onto a dark parking lot. Nothing unusual. At 1:36 a.m., my phone system chimed. Incoming roadside emergency. The call displayed a GPS location on a rural stretch of highway outside Cedar Ridge, about 40 miles from the nearest town. I answered. "Roadside assistance, this is Daniel. What's your emergency?" Breathing. Heavy. Uneven. A woman's voice finally came through. "I think I hit something." "Are you injured?" I asked. "No." Her voice sounded distant, like she wasn't holding the phone close. "Can you tell me where you are?" She gave me the mile marker. Then she said something strange. "There's someone standing behind my car." I pulled up the live traffic camera for that section of road. The feed showed an empty highway. No vehicle. No headlights. No person. "Ma'am," I said carefully, "I don't see anyone there." She whispered, "That's because it doesn't show up on cameras." My stomach tightened. "Please stay in your vehicle," I said. "I'm dispatching assistance now." I started logging the incident. Tow truck ETA, 25 minutes. State Patrol notified. "Is your hazard light on?" I asked. "Yes." The camera feed remained empty. "I can hear it walking," she said softly. "Walking where?" "Around the car." I heard tapping through the phone. Metal, glass, like fingernails. My screen flickered. Her GPS marker drifted slightly off the road, into the trees. "Ma'am, I need you to stay on the line." She didn't respond. Then she whispered, "It's trying to copy my voice." The line went dead. I attempted to call her back. The number was no longer in service. The tow company arrived 27 minutes later. They reported no vehicle, no debris, no tire marks, nothing. But the State Patrol officer called me directly. He said they found something on the shoulder. A cell phone, still warm, recording. The State Patrol officer didn't tell me what was on the recording right away. He asked me to confirm the time of the call, 1:36 a.m. He asked for the GPS coordinates. I read them back. Then he went quiet. Finally, he said, "That phone is still recording." I felt my stomach drop. "Recording what?" "Audio," he replied. "There's no video, just sound." I asked if the woman was okay. He didn't answer. Instead, he asked if I could come to the station. I shouldn't have gone, but curiosity is dangerous when mixed with guilt. By the time I arrived, it was just past dawn. The station smelled like stale coffee and disinfectant. The officer from the scene met me in a small interview room. He placed the phone on the table between us. It was cracked along one edge. Mud smeared the case. "You said she mentioned something copying her voice," he said. "Yes." He pressed play. At first, there was only wind. Then her breathing. Shaky. Fast. She spoke softly. "It's still walking." A faint tapping sound followed. Metal. Plastic. Then her voice again. "It keeps stopping when I turn around." Silence. 30 seconds passed. Then footsteps. Slow. Uneven. Crunching on gravel. She whispered, "Please just leave me alone." Something answered. Her voice. Perfectly. "Please just leave me alone." I felt cold rush through my arms. The officer stiffened beside me. The woman began to cry. "I don't understand," she said. "Why does it sound like me?" Her breathing quickened. Then there was movement. fabric brushing against plastic, a wet, dragging sound. She screamed. The audio distorted violently for several seconds. When it cleared, there was only quiet. Then another voice spoke. Not hers. Low. Flat. I can use this now. The recording ended. I sat there unable to move. They never found her. No car, no blood, no tire tracks. Her identity was confirmed through phone records, but she had no known reason to be on that road. 2 weeks later, I started receiving calls from unknown numbers during my night shifts. Every time I answered, I heard my own voice breathing on the other end. Once, it whispered my name. I resigned the next morning. I changed my number. I moved apartments. But sometimes when my phone rings late at night, the caller ID briefly displays a location instead of a name. Rural highway. Mile marker unknown. I don't answer anymore, because whatever learned how to speak that night is still practicing. My name is Marcus Bell, and for 3 winters, I worked as a night caretaker at a remote mountain lodge called Pine Hollow. It wasn't glamorous work. The lodge sat nearly 20 miles from the nearest town, tucked deep inside a forested valley where snowstorms could trap you for days. My job was to keep the heat running, clear the access road when weather allowed, and make sure nobody broke in during the off-season. I lived alone in a small maintenance apartment attached to the main building. I took the job because I needed money and quiet. I got both. What I didn't expect was how completely isolated Pine Hollow really was once winter set in. Cell service disappeared halfway up the mountain. Internet came through a slow satellite connection that dropped whenever clouds rolled in. After dark, the only light came from the lodge windows and the moon reflecting off snow-covered trees. At first, everything was normal. I settled into a routine. Wake up late morning, check the generators, walk the perimeter, eat, read, sleep, repeat. The silence was comforting. Then, about 2 weeks into December, I noticed footprints in the snow near the back entrance. They were human, fresh, bare. No boots, no shoes, just skin pressed into ice. I assumed someone had wandered up from town, maybe drunk or lost. I followed the tracks for about 30 yards before they simply stopped. No return prints, no disturbance, just ended. That night, I heard knocking on the lodge's front doors. 3 slow hits. I grabbed my flashlight and walked to the lobby. The doors were locked. Outside, the wind pushed snow across the steps. No one was there. I convinced myself it was wind. The next morning, more footprints appeared. This time they circled the building, perfectly spaced. I stood frozen in the lobby, staring at the chairs. Every single one of them faced the front desk. They hadn't been like that before. I knew because I always straightened them during my nightly walkthrough. It was a habit, something small that made the place feel orderly. Now it looked like an audience waiting for something to begin. My radio crackled. I grabbed it. "Marcus DeBase," I said. "Someone is inside the lodge." Only static answered. I walked slowly through the building, flashlight raised, checking rooms one by one. Guest suites were empty. The dining hall was silent. The kitchen was untouched. But everywhere I went, I felt watched. The air felt thicker, heavier, like pressure building in my ears. When I returned to my apartment, the door was open. I never left it unlocked. Inside, my bed had been made. I hadn't made it that morning. On the pillow sat my spare radio. Turned on. My own voice whispered through the speaker. "You don't need it anymore." I dropped the flashlight. Something moved behind me. Footsteps. Bare. Wet. I turned. A figure stood in the doorway. Tall. Too thin. Its limbs bent wrong, joints shifting slowly as if it were learning how to stand upright. Its skin looked stretched and pale, veins dark beneath the surface. Its face was almost human, but the mouth hung slightly open, jaw loose, eyes unfocused. It didn't blink. "You keep the lights on," it said in a voice that sounded borrowed. "That makes it harder." I backed away. "What do you want?" I asked. It tilted its head. "You already know." The hallway lights went out. Only moonlight illuminated the snow through the windows. The figure stepped forward. With each step, frost spread across the floor. "You were alone long enough," it said calmly. "That's how we come." My radio began playing recordings of my own daily check-ins. Generator status, weather reports, routine notes, all layered together. My voice filled the lodge. I ran. I didn't care about protocol anymore. I sprinted for the garage. Behind me, I heard movement. Not chasing, not rushing. Simply keeping pace. The air grew colder with every step. The garage door was half frozen shut. I forced it upward, climbed into my truck, and turned the key. Nothing. The dashboard flickered. The radio came on. Its voice replaced mine. "You don't need to leave." I slammed the wheel and tried again. The engine coughed, then caught. I reversed blindly through snow and darkness, smashing through a drift at the end of the drive. I didn't stop until I reached the highway. By the time authorities arrived later that day, Pine Hollow was empty. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, no record of anyone else being there. They said exhaustion and isolation had likely caused hallucinations. They closed the lodge permanently 3 months later. I quit caretaking, moved closer to people. But sometimes, late at night, when everything goes quiet, my phone picks up a weak signal, and I hear my own voice whispering through static, telling me I left something behind.